Yes, welcome to the round 23 preview. Thanks to the Shelter FootyCast live from the BackChat Studios. Mark Redding's in the chair in the absence of Will Schofield. Hammer Brayshaw's going to join me in just a second as we recap a huge night in Australian sport. That was the Southern River boys out of Thornley. Always good to have them at the top of the show. Of course, you can catch us at socials at Shelter FootyCast, FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. We've got the YouTube BackChat Shelter FootyCast playlist, plenty happening. And today on the show, before we welcome Hammer, we've got the Bottle Mart Roughie of the Week. Just a reminder to start your footy weekend at Bottle Mart. Grab your shelters where Bottle Mart has you covered. Frothtown, biggest build-up we've ever had. In fact, the Matildas has been nothing compared to this Frothtown build-up. Tomorrow night at Claremont Showgrounds. And, of course, looking ahead to, well, you can't go to this one, Hammer. It's Dice playing at Shelter, September 22. Get your tickets at oztic.com.au. Mind you, if you don't make the grand final, you might be available. Hammer, welcome.
Good to be here. Yeah, I hope not to be there. I hope to be sitting at home, sober as a judge, preparing 2 days' time for a grand final. That's the plan.
What a night in Australian sport. Didn't get the result we wanted to as we rolled through our big moments of the round, but the Matildas, I think 7 million people, 7 million people watching this through Seven and streaming, etc. We knew it was going to be huge. And although we didn't get a victory, it was a great night for Australian sport.
Oh, yeah. I hate soccer at the best of times, but I was tuned in and it was gripping. I think I can't remember cheering louder at a sporting moment this year than when Kerr put that one. It was an absolute bomb in the back of the net too. And then just the heartache at when there was a couple of missed opportunities. The one where it was in the goal square. It's a goal square, the penalty box or whatever you want to call it. After a corner that we missed that one, and then they went up the other end and scored. It was some serious heartache throughout. But geez, it was a good night of sport.
It was outstanding, Sam Kerr's goal. England, too good for us, let's be honest. And we'd come off an extra time thriller against France. I think, had a 3-day turnaround. No excuse, but they looked a bit leg-heavy at times. And look, England's a good side. They're the Euro champions. But before April this year, they'd won 30 matches in a row. The Matildas were the team that beat them. So on that basis, they were the better side and deserved to get through to play Spain.
Yeah, they did. But I think I was speaking to Luke Shuey was there last night as well. We had the AFLW season launch and we watched it from there. And he was saying how impressive it was for us to be in a position to be challenging for a World Cup, considering our population in the rest of the world. Like, I don't know how many millions of people more than we've got that's are in Spain and that are in England. And England, it's their number one sport. So for us,
it's their only sport.
Yeah, for us to be challenging is an incredible feat for the Matildas, and it did an awful lot for Australian and women's sport, I think. So it was bloody good.
No question about that, and that's why Will Schofield isn't here now. Yeah. I don't know if you've actually heard him through the course of the last 2 or 3 months. He couldn't have given two rats clackers about the Matildas until about the quarterfinals.
Yep. No, I've heard him. He said they suck. They're going to bomb out. They're going to finish. Sam Kerr's good, but everyone else, who is everyone else? That's what he was. That was the narrative he was running. And then all of a sudden it started to build a bit of momentum, and he started to get behind him, which is fair enough as every Aussie did. But no, he's all of a sudden gone from the world's biggest hater to sitting in a private box watching the quarter semi-final. So good on him. He's taken a trip away, but no, he hates the Tillies.
Hey, speaking of being out of their lane, I don't do social media much, but I put a tweet out last night, Ham. I just want your feedback on this.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've just said, so proud of the Matildas campaign. Good start.
That's a great tweet.
Yeah, and I was sober. This is the important element of this.
Huge tweet.
Time now for Australians to swallow our pride and support a nation we have a great history and rivalry with, one we respect, and fans we love. So go Spain in the final. Does that work for you?
That's brilliant. I like it. I like it a lot. And a tremendous tweet. I'm not on Twitter myself, but I would have got around that. I would have retweeted it.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't barrack for England in a final, given that Piers Morgan, the crap that he puts out, the Barmy Army sledging us, even when they've won nothing all year. And they still haven't won a World Cup in men or women since 1966.
It's coming home. No, it's not.
Let's hope not. Spain. I'm not sure what the right term, La España,
Español. Viva La España.
Viva La España. Just please don't let England win. That doesn't go down too well in my house because my wife is English. Anyway, let's move on. Some huge retirements. It just seems to be the week or the month of farewells. From a local perspective, Nic Naitanui, we know Jack Reevell, Paddy McCartan through concussion, and also Paul Seaman. Let's focus, I guess, on Nic Nat and what he has done for the game.
Yeah, he the third domino to fall in the trio of retirees at the Coasters, but he is undoubtedly the biggest, I think. I mean, not the biggest in terms of the amount of games played, but in terms of what he's done for the club and for the game. there are not many bigger names in the comp than Nic Naitanui, I don't think. He's, in my opinion, still the most recognisable face in the country, football or regardless, anything. He's so well loved, he's respected, he's generous.
He's a decent human being.
Really nice fella. Generous with his time, generous with his success.
Humble.
Yeah, he's a one-of-a-kind individual, but he's a very, very good man and will be sorely missed around the club.
Beautiful family. Look, I know that there's contractual issues here, and surely he'll be used by the club, providing he's happy to go down this path. I mean, marketing-wise, for the next 2 or 3 years, surely there's something for him there.
Oh, you think so? He's been the biggest marketing tool of that club since he got there. He's the face of our Next Generation Academy, the Naitanui Academy. He's all over the place. He's on billboards. He's doing stuff for Hungry Jacks. He's all over the place. So I think it'll be. I think he'll be utilised. I don't think he'll disappear into the wind. But in terms of what he hasn't obviously played football in a couple of years, so he's been in the background and he's been doing his thing around the club anyway, and so I don't think that will change too much for him. I hope he'll still be around and the club would be better off with him there, but whether or not he just wants a bit of time away, not sure.
Any PG stories about Nic Nat behind the scenes? He just seems like the clean-cut Fijian who goes about his business, big, gentle giant. Has he got a bit of mongrel in him somewhere?
He doesn't really. He had a go at, I can't remember who it was. Someone pulled one of his dreadlocks in one game, Zach Merritt, and floored him, and had a go at him that day. But I think, what's a PG story I can tell of Nick? The night after we won the prelim against Melbourne, so obviously he wasn't playing and I wasn't either. Myself, Fraser McInnes and Eric McKenzie. Fraser texted me saying, we're just down at the Sandbar for a Palmer and a couple of beers. You want to come? I drive down there thinking it's going to be a pretty quiet night. Next minute, Nick rolls in with with Brad Shepherd, who was also not playing, and ordered, I think there was 5 of us at the time, and he ordered a round of 20 espresso martinis. And just said, righto, boys, this will be on me tonight. And called the bloke at El Grotto, and we walked over there. And next thing I know, there's 20 bloody Mary shots up there. And he's facilitating the whole night. But in the time that I've been out and around with Nick, I don't think I've ever had to tap my own card. And he's just a very generous, okay, mate, I got this one for you. Don't worry about it. And he does that with his time. He does that with his experience. He does that with all facets of his life. And he's just a very generous and humble man.
Yes, I know nothing but a clean skin, unfortunately, for Nic Nat. We do love him. We hope he enjoys his time. Just one line on Jack Riewoldt, almost 800 career goals. He's bowing out. Paddy McCartan, number 1 draft pick going back, but the concussion. And Paul Seedsman, under the radar, but still a notable career.
Yeah, for Jack Riewoldt, I think I was surprised at how many goals he'd kicked. Because you look at him and you think, yep, he's a star, but he played with. I always thought Tom Lynch was there, Keith Ford when I was watching them in the later years, but he just keeps popping up and kicking goals. He kicked 800 or something. It's a phenomenal career. So he's been an exceptional player for me. Paddy McCartan, I feel for him more than most in the comp. I played VFL with him when he was at Saints and played in a game where he got knocked out, and it was might have been his 4th or 5th.
There's 8 at St Kilda, and the most recent one in April this year, the most innocuous incident that you could have.
Yeah, well, this one wasn't innocuous. He led up for a ball that got kicked at his feet, turned around to pick the ground ball up, and got kneed in the face as he was down picking it up. So that was tough. And Paul Seedsman, I mean, that's a guy who's just etched the most out of his career that he could have done. So I think he ended up playing over 100 games. Yep. But another disappointing, concussion. It sucks to see people stop playing the game because of head injuries. But it's, I think, good on them for pulling up stumps when they have and not trying to push through it.
Now, the last big issue of the week, and it's just only happened overnight, and how much you can talk about this, given your employment, which we have to respect. Adam Simpson's future at the West Coast Eagles. Eddie Maguire has come out on Footy Classified last night and essentially said the board, there's a bit of smoke in the distance with this, and his future beyond this year is still very much in question. It sounds like Trevor Nisbet will continue as CEO through 2024, which no surprise to me. I'd heard that already, and maybe groom a successor. But Adam Simpson's role, not that you know any better, but it's still not resolved, and I'm not sure if the past 2 results certainly last weekend's result has helped his cause.
No, I can't imagine it has, but I think, he's still contracted for another 2 years. He's still contracted for another 2 years, which comes into play. He still is the coach. The club have come out and supported him throughout. Yes, the big losses haven't been good, and I think you're probably past the point of injuries and senior experience sort of. being the reason. So there's certainly things that need to be fixed, but it's not as cut and dry as just saying get rid of the coach or get rid of the CEO. So there's plenty to go, plenty at play. I'm not too privy to much. I'm sitting in the community department doing my own thing. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out. I think the club is certainly in need of an off season to refresh and go again. But with 2 games to go, anything can happen, I think.
Yeah, nothing will happen, I don't think, before the end of the season. And there's some big names behind the scenes. I mean, you think of the likes of Nigel Sadlerley, Murray McHenry, Brian Sierakowski, I'm told, agitating for some change. Some of them, some people, not saying those 3 specifically, but there will be, I think, at least an examination as to whether Simo continues in 2024. And fair enough, the results haven't been there, but that'll play out, I don't think, before the end of the home and away season. You're listening to the Shelter FootyCast. It's Hammer and Skeet as we roll through our preview of round 23. Okay, let's jump into the Eagles and Fremantle. Gee, after watching the Matildas for the past week, it was good because we just sort of put the footy to the side. We've got to go back and try and work out how the Eagles can be competitive against the Bulldogs. 11:10 Sunday, Marvel Stadium. The Dogs really disappointing against Hawthorn. It'll be Launceston's a tough place to win. We know that Hoff, the Ventolin issue.
Ventolin puffer.
Petrocelli had tonsillitis, we believe, and Marek, I think, had a bit of a calf issue, set to be available this week.
Yep. That'll turn the tide. They'll win this one, the Coasters. This is my... No, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to leave my bottle nut roughie of the week. But I obviously will be tipping the West Coast Eagles, as is my... obligation in my employment. But no, it's all about being competitive here. I don't think they're going over there... I mean, I'm sure they try and expect to win, but I think they'll be going over there wanting to be competitive. They put up a pretty lacklustre performance on the weekend, and... I feel like personal pride takes over for a player at this point where it's, I almost go back to just everyone go one-on-one and see how you go. Don't worry about setting up structure or zone or anything like that. It's just beat your man or don't let your man beat you too much, I think is almost the way they need to be. But, it's all about being competitive, and it'll be tough because the Dogs are a good side at Marvel.
And they've got so much to play for. I mean, they've lost Liberatore. Tommy's got a bit of concussion from last week, so he's out. Bont's there, but he's probably right below him as your next best midfielder. So 2 weeks to go. I guess Eagles supporters asking here, Hammer, we saw them against Essendon, so competitive.
Yep.
Fell away so badly. How do you get a guide as to what they're going to dish up on Sunday?
You can't. It is really a toss of a coin, but everyone, I think, in blue and gold will be hoping that it turns on the side of competitive. I think that's all they can ask for. That's all they can hope for. I don't think they're going over there hoping to win the game. I'm sure that they'd love to, but I think it's a real competitive mindset they're going to be going over there with. Yeah,
so the Dogs winning the game, boosting their percentage because their spot in the 8 exactly is a bit tenuous. I'll just give you, not saying this is Eagles specific, but some word coming out of the East Coast for me is that Devon Robertson might have even done a tour of the facilities at the Eagles in the last month or so, and Trey Rusco. Now, both players looking to come home. They're out of contract. Trey, of course, at Collingwood, Devon's at Brisbane. And I believe Devon, who's the nephew, I believe, of Darren Glass,
to
my knowledge.
Yes.
He's a chance to return and become a West Coast Eagle next year. Lots to play out, of course, but just all this sort of...
All throwaway.
All this stuff at the end of the season will come into play. But a couple of West Australians looking to head home. The Eagles, of course, for you, because you have to tip them. I'm tipping the Western Bulldogs by a margin, but they're not. They're a weird side. The Bulldogs.
They're another one that goes up and down.
Yeah, they've got all the tools for a really good side. Just in brief, do you think they can go deep in September, or are you concerned about the fluctuations?
I'm concerned about the ebbs and flows. I don't think in finals you can afford that. That being said, I think if Marcus Bontempelli can play out of his skin for 4 weeks in a row, that he can drag anyone to anywhere. So they get there, they're a sniff, but it's going to be tough for them.
Yeah, it's a very even final series coming up. Okay, let's turn our attention to Sunday afternoon, 2:40, Optus Stadium, Fremantle and Port Adelaide. Well, Fremantle couldn't have done anything more than they did last week in the Derby. 101-point win. Port, they're still chasing a top 2 finish. They'll be hoping that Collingwood beats Brisbane tomorrow night. Travis Boak returns. The young guns in the midfield. This is the exciting part of what's happening on Sunday. Bloke called Brayshaw, Sarong and Young. And for Port, Rosie, Butters, Horn Francis. This is going to be, albeit nothing for Fremantle to gain in ladder position or in 2023, but this is going to be huge, this contest between those mids.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I think looking at the weekend's game, you don't really take a whole lot out of that for Freo, but their last month of football has been pretty impressive. They only lost to Brisbane by a handful of points and really made a game of that. So this will be a game that they think they can win. At Optus Stadium, they play well. And Port have been struggling a little bit in the last month.
They bounced against the Giants.
They did bounce against the Giants, but before that, it had been a couple in a row.
I think it might have been 3 or 4.
3 or 4 losses in a row. So it will be a battle of the midfield here, I think. And I think Luke Jackson probably adds to that for Freo and will be that fourth mid around there. But you look at what Hayden Young's been able to do and give a little bit of size. The knock on Andrew and Caleb is a little bit of undersized, and obviously they fight and they're very good players. But you look at the size difference in them versus Horn Francis and Roseanne Butters. They're that bigger bodied and explosive. So it'll be a real interesting battle there, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But it'll be for Freo. I think you get nothing out of winning the game, but it's I think it's a real opportunity for them to cut their skin and to test it out against a really, really good opposition against Port, who will be hoping to get a top 2. Yeah.
And you've never seen a side who finishes off well in a year despite missing the finals. It gives them it gives them momentum for next year. I know it's all paper covering a lot of cracks, but let me just, given that this match hasn't a lot of bearing for Fremantle, but this does. Liam Henry, out of contract. He spoke on the AFL website, a show with Andrew Cracker, I think, the last day or so, about where he'll be next year. Hasn't decided or hasn't confirmed. And then you've got blokes like Nathan Wilson, Joel Hamling and Travis Collier. I think those 3 players have been playing really well for Peel. I don't think they're going to be offered a new contract. You prepared to argue that one?
Oh, not really. I think they're... they haven't. I don't think Joel Hamling played 1 game,
1 or 2 games. Nathan Wilson the same.
Cox, Wilson the same. I'm not sure Trav's played much this year. They're on the back ends of their career, and they are playing good footy at Peel. But I think that's probably a sign. If you are playing consistently good football and not getting an AFL game, then that might be a little sign. But I think it's a big one for Liam Henry, who has resurrected his career in the last sort of 6 months.
He's
definitely
averaging 24 disposals in his past 8 weeks. So I've got to be honest. Until the last month or 2 or 3, I thought, when's this going to, young player with talent who came as a top 10 pick, going to be a breakout player, and we see what he can deliver? Are we starting to see a little bit of that?
Yeah, I think so. He really shocked me. I mean, I played him at Peel last year, and he had flashes of brilliance, and you could see, geez, this guy's got a talent to be a really, really good player. And then you go and watch him at AFL level, and those flashes were few and far between, and he just sort of was out there. But this year he's sort of played, I guess, coming out of contract, you play with a little bit more freedom. Some people do. It's either you freeze or you go for it, and he's gone for it, and he's sort of come out of his shell, and he's playing exceptional football, and has certainly shown why he was a top draft pick. Okay, and the other bit of information that I can impart is that the All-Australian selectors, I think, met in Melbourne yesterday. Glenn Jakovich, Matthew Pavlich representing the WA interest. Caleb Sarong is... if not on the bench in the starting lineup, which he's had such a great season, he'd be leading the Doig medal. So a big tick if he could get an All-Australian Guernsey in the 40 initially, which I'm sure he will. And Luke Ryan, the other player. So I'm sure you'd support Caleb Sarong given what he's done this year. Yeah, absolutely. I think he has... Andrew started the year off a little bit. I mean, not off. He still was having 30, but he wasn't as damaging as he was last year, and Caleb sort of picked up the slack there. But he's elevated his game to another level. I think he's relished the vice captain role and just taken that on field. So yeah, I'd be shocked if he wasn't in the 40. The take it or leave it for actually getting a jumper jacket, because I think a bit of that comes down to your team and how they've been going as well. And so many midfielders. So he's certainly been, I believe, in the best 40 players of the season. So if he doesn't get a jacket, I'd be a bit shocked. Okay, so we've gone on about the issues at Fremantle. Is selection Sunday, the Dockers or Port? I think the Dockers will get it done. I think they're playing really good footy at the moment for a pointless time of the year, but I reckon they'll take this as a real opportunity to roll a good side. Well, I think you summed it up beautifully. Pointless for Fremantle, and there's so much at stake for Port. Top 2, Port Adelaide. I think they're just going to start to find their mojo again. You're tipping Freo, I'm tipping Port. There are WA teams on our Shelter FootyCast. Let's jump into the rest of the round tomorrow night at Marvel Stadium. Despite it being first versus second, Collingwood v Brisbane. Why the MCG? Now, there must be a contractual deal here somewhere that we haven't heard about, but the Lions would want it at the G. Magpies will get more members in there. Seems bizarre. Everyone's banging on about it, but it's playing at Marvel, which gives Collingwood, I guess, a few more headaches, because Brisbane's probably
they're 2 games clear, percentage on top. Again, what's there to play for Collingwood? They've got 2 blokes out who've been declared out in De Goey and Hill this week. Moore's out, Dacos. Mm-hmm. Is it a bit of man management for the coach Craig McRae in the last 2 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because you're in a position where you can do that. I don't think they'd necessarily want to put everyone on ice, but you still want to win games. You want to carry momentum, and I think for a side like Collingwood, if they can beat Brisbane, who are second on the ladder and have been very, very good this year, with an undermanned side, you just gain. I mean, they're not short of any belief by no means, but if they can carry 4 or 5 injuries into a game and win against the second best side in the comp, that'll give them an enormous lift going into finals. For Brisbane, they'll obviously be disappointed it's not the G. They wanted to sort of prove themselves there, but take this as an opportunity to keep locking down second spot. It's tight. Melbourne, Brisbane, Port. It's anyone's game for second. So they're still locking it down, and I think it's they'll take this just as intense as any final that they're going to play. So it'll be a bloody tough game, but I'm not sure why it's not at the G.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, end of the day, the Lions, if they win their last 2, they finish top 2, which off the back of that gives them home qualifying final, potentially home prelim final. Again, they've only got to play once at the G, and you've only got to win 1 game to be premier. So there's a bit to play out there. Gunston out with a knee, so he'll obviously be just managed between now and the finals as it stands. Will Hoskin-Elliott will play his 200th game for the Magpies. He's sort of under the radar,
hasn't he? He's gone very under the radar. Started at GWS and... I remember him being this curly-headed kid who was super quick, and I watched him play a couple of games at the Giants and just thought, well, I mean, he's good, but all of a sudden now he's played 200. It shocked me.
That's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, massive.
Still Sidebottom returns to the side.
Yep.
Tell me what you know about. Give us a bit of a background on Jacob Ryan.
Jacob Ryan, jeez, he's the bloke with the real surfy mullet.
The mullet, good get.
Yeah, I only.
You've heard of him?
No, I haven't heard of him. I only know that.
I thought, gee, that's a good get.
Because I have just followed Josh Dacos on Instagram and put up a photo of him debuting. But the real surfy Mark Nikoski almost look.
Yeah, so he'll make his debut, and well done to him. And who are you selecting? Marvel Stadium tomorrow night. Now, there has been, not that I follow the markets, and you definitely can't, but the Lions have been backed pretty heavily here, given the outs for Collingwood.
Yeah, I obviously can't follow the markets. Well, I can, but I can't do anything with them. I think Brisbane will get it done. I think they play very well at Marvel Stadium. It's not the MCG, but it's also... Collingwood have got a string of injuries out, and it's going to be difficult for them. Darcy Moore sets them up so well. Nic Dacos is obviously I think the best player in the comp, and Jordan De Goey's a star. So it'll be tough, I think, for Collingwood, and Brisbane will be taking this opportunity to really pounce at it and lock down that second spot.
Just quickly before we leave this game, Jacob Ryan, there was something I think on Instagram. That's the right format I've got. He's been described, Jacob Ryan, as Flying Ryan, but. Liam Ryan apparently has jumped on and said, tell him there's only one Flying Ryan, cuz. That's a bit of Liam Ryan just chiming in, not wanting his...
he hasn't flown for a while, Liam. He was up there and came down and did his hamstring. So
exactly. Well, just letting them know that my brand, I've got that patented Flying Ryan, so well done to him. Who are we selecting? Brisbane.
Brisbane, yep.
I'll go, still going with Brisbane as well, given what I'm hearing out of the Magpies. So we're agreeant on that one. Richmond, North Melbourne, Saturday MCG, believe it or not, 11:45 a.m. This is the farewell game, we believe, for Trent Cotchin and Jack Revolt, given I don't think they'll travel the last round. So Jacob Hopper returns to the side, and George Wardlaw being put on ice for the last couple of games, just making sure he's right for 2024. Jaden Stevenson with a thumb is out, and of course Ben Cunnington retired in really gracious fashion.
Yeah, he's... he was one of my favourite players to watch growing up. I was a massive North Melbourne fan, and just the way he went about it. Glenn Archer was my all-time favourite player, and then Cunnington came along and was right up there as well. Just the way he attacked the footy, the way he was on and off the field, and he will happily fade away and go to Warrnambool and do what he does. But I've never seen a tougher player. I think he had 33 possessions one game, and 32 of them were contested. That stat that came out the other day about the most 20 times contested possessions, I think Luke Davies-Uniacke's done it twice, Josh Simpson might have done it twice, and Ben Cunnington's had 20 or more contested possessions 21 times. So just gapping the comp there. He's a star. I think, obviously, that North Melbourne will struggle to play the last 2 games and will struggle to get competitive, and that Richmond will win. But it was a good send-off for Cunners last week, and I think it'll be a good send-off for the Richmond boys this week too.
It'll be huge. You think, given what they did for Cochin for his 300th or 300th game? 350, 300th game. They'll be sending him and Revolt off with a victory. You can almost lock this in for a Richmond win, I think, given where this season is at for both sides. Tigers for me, Tigers for you over North Melbourne at the MCG. They should get a decent crowd given the 2 heroes bowing out. Just remember, we're still waiting for your bottom half roughie of the week. And don't worry, I'm finding it hard. There's not a lot of value to get excited about, but we'll go up to the Heritage Bank Stadium on the Gold Coast. Saturday, the Suns and the Blues. Ben King comes in, Harry Mackay also in. Blues chasing 9 in a row, but the Suns have been pretty decent on their home deck.
Yeah, they have been very good on their home deck. I remember being in the hub in 2020, and at about, what time's this game?
12:10, so 2:10.
2:10, yeah. At early afternoon, mid-afternoon, probably about 3 o'clock. So they might play the first half in a bit dry. But it just, when the dew kicks in, it just sort of, the sun gets to an awkward spot, and it just all of a sudden becomes a cake of soap. And they deal with those conditions very well. You did, I forgot that I had a bottle out of the roughie to go for this week, and I don't think that the Suns will be over $3. But
I'm going to have to let both of us off here, because I think there's only a
West
couple
Coast
of games.
Are the only ones
West Coast
over.
is probably over $4. Outside of that, there's nothing really under $3. But you throw what you think is a roughie, and I'll judge, and we can make a call.
Yeah, I think Carlton. It hurts me because they're the real deal, and as soon as I said, I think it was on this podcast, that they'll never win another game, I'm never tipping them again.
Haven't lost another game.
Gone 8 in a row. So I am hesitant to tip against them, although. I just think Gold Coast are very, very good at their home deck, and I think this is the closest one that I can get to a roughie if I go Gold Coast by 4 goals. I think Gold Coast to win by 24 points or more will be, I reckon that'd get me to about $3 or $4, wouldn't it?
That'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take that. There's my bottom up, roughie.
And, of course, one bloke looking on very closely, Damien Hardwick, who, apart from the press conference and all being announced, it sounds like a done deal.
Yeah, he's an excellent coach. I think he'll do wonders for the footy club. And I think they're in a position where they've got all the talent, and they've had all the talent for a while. If they can find someone to steer the ship, they'll be a real force. So I think they'll put on a good show for Dimmer and win by 4 goals.
There you go, against the Blue Baggers, who need to keep winning to make sure that look, I think Scully went through some numbers, and they're highly likely to play finals. But yeah, you just why stop the winning run now on the verge of finals? Saturday afternoon, Giants Stadium. I'm going to stick with Carlton.
Okay.
Because I'm
going to find a bottom up.
Yeah,
sure.
I might go. I'm coming up soon.
Okay.
Giants, Bombers, Saturday afternoon. Essentially, elimination fight. Both these sides have to win their last 2.
Yep.
Toby Bedford, Brent Daniels return from suspension. 2 small forwards that will be really invaluable for them. Draper and Stringer back for the Bombers. And, of course, the Toby Green factor comes into it here. The Giants have been, I reckon, one of the better stories of the year, given what they've done. And I had them sort of bottom 4, and they're looking more at, on the cusp of the 8.
Yeah, well, I had both of these sides down at the bottom. I actually think on this show I might have said GWS to make the finals, and you laughed at me.
I probably did.
Only because of my friend Jack Buckley, who is playing exceptional football. Toby Green is a star, and he will be, him and obviously Jack winning the BackChat Backman of the Year award. Those 2 will be the only reason I'll be tuning into this game. But I've got a bit on the line with Scully for, I'm not sure if you heard the bet that Scully and I had.
It's a naked element?
Yeah, there's a naked element to it. If Toby Green wins the Brownlow, I've got to serve beers at the Paddo naked for a night.
How does that work?
Nah, not sure.
Don't worry, but see, at least you're in a position where it's no certainty. Scully, this is Scully in March or April. This is what he said about the West Coast Eagles on a BackChat podcast.
If West Coast win the wooden spoon, I'm happy to reveal I will do a naked lap of Optus Stadium, with nothing on, because I'll be naked. I'll do a naked lap.
So that's on the record.
Wow.
And on Monday, I'm going to confront him one-on-one
go for it.
About a letter that, we've just got some documentation which is quite damning on him. And if he doesn't follow through, then he needs to reassess his...
reassess himself. But back to the football, I think this is going to be a pretty good game. But I think all 36 men on the field will be fully clothed, and it'll be looking to be a good contest.
Who are you tipping?
I think I'm going to tip the Giants.
Yeah, of course you are.
Yeah.
Can I have a bottom art roughie of the week here? Because
I'm
going to go the Bombers.
Okay.
As you said, more than 4 goals. I'll go.
Sure. There's your phone.
There's my phone.
Even your phone's upset at the bottom up roughie of the week.
I'm going to tip the Bombers by in excess of... You had 4 goals.
I had 4 goals. I can give 4
Suns?
goals if you want it.
I'll go 4 goals
Sure,
as well.
Bombers by 4 goals. That's bottom up.
That definitely puts us over $3, Jaden. We've got one each this year, Scully and I, and that came on the same weekend. So I reckon any chance of us doubling up? 286. Yeah, so I'm around the mark. That's pretty much. Yeah, I'm around the mark. Thank you. Bombers for me.
Bombers 4 goals. Yeah, there you go.
So the Giants win by 10. Righto, next up we've got, here's 2 big games. Saints, Cats, Saturday night, our time, must win. The outs for Geelong, Rowan and Stanley, 2 premiership players. Cats a bit undersized. Tom Hawkins is the big question mark whether he returns from that hammy. Cam Guthrie, Tom Hawkins, as I said, both 50-50 to return. If they play, it's almost a case of, gee, I think Geelong can win. But just got a feeling St Kilda are getting back to playing the footy they did at the start of the year. This is a really good game, probably the match of the round.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think looking at it at the start of the year, Saints just surprised me and absolutely shot out of a cannon to start. Then they sort of levelled into where I thought they would be, around that sort of 8 to 4, anywhere from 5 to 8 mark, and now they're sort of starting to play good footy again. So they're obviously doing it at the right time, but I think Geelong have got everything to play for as well. So Hawkins will be a massive in for them. If he can come back, he's just an enormous... I mean, we speak about Jack Rewalt kicking as many goals, but this bloke is this bloke's a star, a bona fide star. He's a mountain. There's not many Man Mountains left in the competition.
Not Man Mountains, no.
And he's one of them.
Yes,
he is just enormous. Seeing him in person, he just dwarfs people. He's enormous, and he just has that. He's got the tank of a midfielder. He kicks goals, so he's an enormous in for the Cats if he can get back.
Yeah, Cats are just... There's something missing, obviously, from this time last year. So whether they can get to the 8, Chris Scott's still confident. More importantly, who do you think will win this game?
It's tough. I really like Geelong, and I think that they can, if they can somehow find a way in, that they can be dangerous. But I just think Saints are playing good footy at the moment, so I'm weirdly going to tip the St Kilda Saints.
Yeah, I'm tipping the outsider here as well, St Kilda.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think the fact this is played at Marvel Stadium helps their cause somewhat. So we're both picking the Saints. I did say it's probably the match of the round. Well, given first is playing second, maybe
but
not.
At Marvel.
At Marvel, yeah.
Doesn't matter. If it was at the G, it would have brought the house down.
Absolutely. Both going the Saints as we roll to the Adelaide Oval. 5:40, 2 sides that need to win their last 2 games again to make the 8, possibly. Crows always good at home, not so good away. Rankin returns from that that injury. And Dane Rampy is big for Sydney. Joel Amarty has some tightness in the hamstring, so he's out. And Nick Blakey plays his 100th game. Despite the fact this is in Adelaide, Sydney's form has been very strong in the last 6 to 8 weeks.
It has. It's been very good. They're playing some very good football. The Lizard playing his 100th is huge.
Yeah.
Milestone games are always big and always important.
Is 100 big?
100's big. 100 games is a lot of footy. That's father-son, qualified. It's a big number of football games.
I mean, 200's huge. I mean,
200's
250,
huge.
Anything over 200, I think is, and even Brian Taylor said this, do we give too much kudos and credence to, now this is blokes never played an AFL game, 100 games, is it something we should celebrate in just a little bit more modestly, or you think banners, everything?
Yeah, I think banners and everything. I think playing 100 games, I think if you looked at the percentage of
very small
people that have played AFL football and then have gone on to play 100 games, it's very small. The percentage of people in the country that have played 100 games of AFL football is just minuscule. So I absolutely think it's something to be celebrated.
Sorry, Lizard. No, we'll jump back on board.
I'm on the Lizard train. It's a milestone game, and they obviously want to play well there. But I think Rankin coming back for the Crows is massive. He brings an atmosphere to that place that's unlike anywhere in the comp. And he's obviously a phenomenal player. I think he's almost been the trade or recruit of the year. You could make an argument for a couple of others, but he's been right up and around there. It's going to be an intense game of footy. Finals on the line. Toss of a coin. I'm going to go Adelaide, I think.
I'm sort of with you here because I'm just a few down in my footy tipping in the West, and I know
I'm right at the bottom.
You're like the bloke. You're like the horse in the Melbourne Cup that missed the start and it started at still 10 lengths. You still last or not?
I believe I am still last. I think I'm the only bloke in there that's tipped West Coast every week.
game. You had to, yeah. You and JL probably obliged given your situations.
I also have a blind allegiance to Freo and Melbourne, which is disappointing because
they're both. One of them in shootout.
Freo hasn't been as good as I would have liked them to be. But I'm just at the back. I'm the shepherd. I'm just making sure everyone sort of stays on. I'm rounding up the back.
Well, I'm with you here. I think Adelaide does win the game. Sydney good. Just, the question, I think Rankin's a huge in for them. So both picking the Adelaide Crows in that one. One more game to roll through in round 23. It's Melbourne versus Hawthorn at the MCG Sunday, 1:20 our time. Hawthorn, Talk about buying stocks in a club.
Unbelievable.
They're going beautifully. Grundy, what about him? Does he hold his spot? Adam Tomlinson, Tom McDonald, Ben Brown, all available potentially. Chad Wingard is out with an Achilles for the Hawks. And Maxi Gawn. Now, here's a milestone. 200, Hammer.
There you go. Maxi Gawn, that's a milestone we can get behind. This is a game all of a sudden. I mean, if you had asked me 3 weeks ago who's going to win this, I would have said Melbourne by a landslide. But the Hawks have just come out of nowhere and have started to play some bloody good football. Sicily back is huge. Yep. Sam Mitchell's got him to a point where who cares, do whatever you want, and it's working for them. I think Melbourne have got, what are they, 4th at the moment? They've got a real challenge on their hands to sort of play some good footy, and they'll get to see the other 2 games. So they'll get to see what happens with
Collingwood, Brisbane.
With Collingwood, Brisbane. I think Port go after them, so they won't see that. But they'll see Brisbane. If Brisbane lose, then that might open up a door for them to maybe get going a little bit again for a top 2 spot, although albeit unlikely. It's interesting. I think Gawn playing 200's huge. For a bloke who was couldn't care less, was drinking beer and smoking cigarettes at training, and all of a sudden he's now played 200 games and is the most dominant ruckman in the comp.
Premiership captain.
He's a phenomenal man, a phenomenal player. I think Melbourne get it done, but I don't think it's going to be a walkover that they once would have expected.
No, exactly. I'm with you. Melbourne should be winning. I mean, their form has been patchy, but they've still got that. And I know you've got the faith, but I still don't think they've played their best footy by any means this year so far. No,
they haven't. They've been playing. I remember speaking to Angus about it a couple of days ago. They've been playing teams in the last 2 months that have been playing for their finals pretty much. So they played Richmond when they needed to win. They played Adelaide when they needed to win. They played Carlton when they were on a run and needed to win. They played Geelong when they needed to win. They've played games against teams that have been basically playing finals. So if you look at a game earlier in the season where it's Melbourne versus Richmond, Melbourne win that one, but Richmond were fighting for something, and it was a bit more of a GWS. They played them and they were fighting for finals. So it was. They've been playing intense games, so their form's been up and down a little bit, and they haven't been winning. They haven't hit their straps. I think Clayton coming back is huge for them. But yeah, they're peaking. I think they need to start peaking at this time of the year, and they're in a position where if they win a couple of games, they can hopefully or maybe finish second, but definitely top 4, and then get the double chance and go from there.
So with that being said, Melbourne for you, Melbourne for me. There we have it. We've got a fair bit in common this week, which means if you're following our footy tips, you're probably in a lot of trouble because Hammer's last and I'm only
horrible.
I'm just struggling along the top few at the West, but not going well at the moment. This is the Shelter FootyCast. Yes, Frosstown coming shortly, and of course we've given you our Bottle Mart Roughies of the week, some listener comments, and then a question to finish us off.
Sure.
Now you probably haven't seen it, but there's lots of jacket comments about me that I wore. It was like a grey jacket. It was quite stylish, actually. Lots of buttons on the inside. So I copped a bit of feedback. It's just Chriso says, did Skeet steal Inspector Gadget's jacket? Yeah, good on him. That's good. Well, nice work, Chriso, there. Daniel Jeffrey, 222, Skeet, the jacket is excellent. Thank you very much.
There you go.
It's one you'd wear to like an EPL game in...
Of course.
Yeah, and it's cold in Manchester. Yeah, it's not bad. Anyway,
I know the
thanks
one.
to Seven for that. Channel 7 gave me that when I went to Manchester. Aussie TV Music. This is more a statement. West Coast are the worst team I've ever seen in 50 years of watching footy. Even Subiaco in the 1980s had more fight. I'll leave you to ponder that and digest. This one, I'll get you to answer.
Sure.
That's from, by the way, W Wood 2462. Sounds like a prison name, but anyway, this is how we roll apparently, Jade. And now, this is a serious one. I think the AFL needs to have a look at the puffer situation, not puffer jacket.
Yes.
The puffer here. Lots of players have asthmatic issues, and I think the AFL needs to go on a massive education program to educate players. I think a lot of players have been going over the limit accidentally, and we don't want players banned for years for an accident like that. What are your thoughts on reflection given the Brady Hoff situation last week?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you do an awful lot of education around this sort of stuff, but looking back on it, the education around asthmatics and puffers is not general. You don't that doesn't really go to the whole team. You sit in your meeting and you talk about performance enhancing drugs and illicit substances and the doping codes and all that sort of thing. And then they speak about TUs, I think they're called, these exemption forms that you need to fill out if you've got some stuff like that, or TUEs or something I think they're called. I can't remember. But asthmatics are one that you need to fill this form out to get prior exemption for, for these puffers. But there is a limit. But that's what they tell you in the in those meetings when you get them rolled out. You said asthmatics have got to fill these forms out, and it's something that is Ventolin is acceptable up to a certain point, and then over that, you're in some trouble. But you don't really hear what that exact point is in that general meeting. So, and I'm not an asthmatic, so I haven't sought this feedback out. But if you were an asthmatic, you would then have to go and speak to the club doctor and figure out exactly how many puffs. And I don't know that it would necessarily be a one size fits all. And it's interesting because they've obviously got a medical condition where they need this to sort of breathe, I guess. And
just a minor part of your life.
Just a minor part of your life. And I'd be interesting to see at what point it becomes overly performance enhancing. I can't see it for a bloke who's been diagnosed with asthma. If you need 10 puffs to get yourself to a point where you can run around and breathe, I don't know how, man. It's not like you've done a round of steroids and are feeling good about yourself. You've taken a bloody puff to breathe. So I think it's something that needs to be looked at. I'm not sure the exact ins and outs of it, but there's plenty of them rolling around. I've seen a few puffers in my time, asthma puffers, and I haven't necessarily got the hard and fast rule on what it is, but I think it certainly needs to be looked at.
Gee, you summed that up well. In fact, I might have just given my experience and knowledge on this. Travis Kelce probably deserves just a little bit of love here about asthmatics and Ventolin for me.
Know your role and shut your mouth.
That's what I'm going to do because I know nothing about this subject. I'm like you. But tell you what, you spoke your way through that with such eloquence, Hammer. I love it. That has been our round 23 preview for the Shelter FootyCast. Socials at Shelter FootyCast, FootyCast at shelterbrewing.com.au. The YouTube BackChat Shelter FootyCast playlist. Links are in bio, whatever that means. Get on board. Scully's back in town very shortly after watching the Matildas. Hammer, always a pleasure. Good luck to the Royals this week as you take on the might of the West Coast Eagles. We'll catch you on Monday.